right, Shalom. You reached the He Prayed channel. My name is Isaac Mawar. First and foremost, I want to say, call Halalim, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harak Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the Bakiyah of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harak Kwadash, which is in Great Millstone, where I learned this truth from and who rule well. Salutations to the Bakiyah, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being a governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to those Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai Ba'ashim Harakwadas for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashah Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai Ba'ashim Harakwadas. Allow this to be an edifying lesson to at least one member of the elect. Now this video is going to be an extension of the dungeon feeling. And this video is entitled The Guillotine. So without further ado, let's get to it. So I'm gonna use Copilot AI. And I'm gonna start with the core precept, the main precept, Revelation chapter 2, verse 10. And I'll just start at verse 8, which is a message to Smyrna. Revelation chapter 2, verse 8, it says, unto the angel, which you know, an angel is defined as a messenger of the church in Smyrna. These things saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. Which that's speaking about Yahweh Shai. He was the first and the last spirit that was created by the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. And he lives forevermore. It says, I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews. So, you know, that's when you speak ill of the Spirit. And this is a twofold scripture. It could apply to you wicked Israelites. I mean, it could apply to those Amalekites that are imposters. And reality, only these heathens can blaspheme. It says, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan, which synagogue is a chief house. And Satan is defined as being an adversary to all that is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Harachwadash. Verse 10, it says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer, which this is directly toward the hopeful elect, right? Behold, the devil. Now, this is all those that are joined hand in hand and are tied into his system. You know, you could be of any origin or any nationality and have a association with Esau in doing his bidding. You know, you fall into this category as being a devil. And that word devil means deceiver. And in some translations and definitions, it also means accuser. It says, shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. When you go into that word tried, it means to be tested. You know, this whole walk, this human experience is a test. And ye shall have tribulation 10 days, which is a biblical numerology for completion, a complete amount of time. It doesn't necessarily mean exactly. It says, be thou faithful unto death. So you have to maintain your faith that, you know, you're going to achieve rulership after your test is over. It says, and I will give thee a crown of life. And Yahweh Shah is personally going to give you that crown. Let me get that real quick because I think that's important, you know, for you to, I believe it's 3, but let me do 3 first. I think it's important for you to keep that in mind. It's not 3. Let me go back. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 2, verse 38. It says, rise up and stand. You know, so we're going to be, or I should say the elect are going to be praised on this day for their unwavering faith, which was prescribed onto them since the foundation of the world to have, even to this day that is approaching. Behold, the number of those that be sealed in the feast of Yahweh Shai, which are departed from the shadow of the world and have received glorious garments of Yahweh Shai. Take thy number, O Zion, and shut up those of thine that are clothed in white, which white, the color, represents righteousness and purity, which have fulfilled the law of Yahweh Shai. Right. Meaning that they perform the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of their ability, even in captivity, even in this captivity. where it's likened onto a valley of a shadow of death. It says, the number of thy children whom thou longest for is fulfilled. Beseech the power of Yahweh Shai, that thy people which have been called from the beginning may be hallowed. Right, so it also says in the scriptures that the spirit of the prophets is subject onto them. Let me see if I could get it real quick. And let me bring this one out real quick. No, never mind. Well, I'm just going to make a point that before they were called prophets, they were called seers. Let's see if it's in here. What was it again? It's 1432. This is 1 Corinthians, which geographically Corinth is in Greece. So Paul was speaking to the Israelites in Grecia, just to prove that. It says city in Greece, right? This is 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 32. It says, and the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets. And that's because of predestination and from, you know, it being from the foundation, from the beginning, right? Which these are the same spirits that were spoken of in Genesis, the first chapter, the Elohim, the messengers. I, Ezra, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people, whom I could not number, and they all praised Yahweh Shai with songs. And in the midst of them there was a young man of a high stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. So that's what's being described here in Revelation, the second chapter, the 10th verse. It says, and I will give thee a crown of life. So the elect are going to endure, and after their endurance, they're going to receive a crown of life, which represents rulership. And this rulership is going to be different than as we are in the time of the Gentiles, because this rulership is going to be eternal. It's going to be forever. And that's why so-called white man is so hell-bent, which he's not white, he's red. He started calling himself white in 1681 due to the Bacon rebellions. It's the reason why he's so hell-bent on changing prophecy to try to disrupt prophecy in his favor. It says, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death, which that represents second death, that is, that thermonuclear destruction, as we are really approaching closer and closer to it. So going back to Copilot, now, disclaimer, I just want the definition of, these Greek and Lashawan Kwadash or Lashawan Tahar words. And I'm not saying that Copilot is 100% accurate, but I'm just going to read them, and it's up to you to go and define them, right? So it says key terms for the word fear in the Greek, phobeo, to be terrified, right? So don't be terrified, man. This is your glory hour. This is your moment. If you find yourself in that lot, because not everyone has the same lot, you know, think of it as being proof, that when you look in Yahweh Shah's eyes and he looks back into yours, you see that he sees in you that you were willing to give your life for him, just as he gave for you. And not too many people, not too many individuals will really give their life for another person, man. Really put their life on the line. You know, um, in the Lashwan Kodash, I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability. La ta tara, la tara, thou shalt not fear. So the Most High is not that it's going to be of your own will, but he's going to put the spirit on you not to fear, just as he has done throughout this ministry. When you go out there on the highways and hedges, when you're about in the world, you have that sense of protection because of the love that you have for Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. And that love is shown and displayed through your love for the brethren in this, for the word tribe in the Greek, pierazo, to test, prove. So this is just to test and prove, that you're one of his, man. And it's going to be written, and you're going to be glorified for that proving. Lashawan Kodash root na sa, to test, prove. Tribulation, Greek, thelipis, pressure. We're going to be under extreme pressure, man. Unfortunately, I got to redo the video. I was supposed to set the tone for this series of videos I was going to do. I wanted to gather a little bit of information. But when you're in the dungeon, or in confinement, and that the end may be near, that's extreme pressure. Just as when Yahweh Shai was in the Garden of Gethsemane, it says crushing. In the Lashwan Kodash, Tazarah, distress, trouble. For the word faithful, in the Greek, it says pistos, trustworthy, which that's probably the reason why, I'm not saying it's true, but that's the reason why they call a gun a pistol, because they put their trust in it, But we're to put our trust in the faith that we have in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem HaKodash. Because carnality is not going to save you. Lashwan Kodash root, ma, which is firm, sure, faithful. For the word crown in the Greek, Stephanos, victor's wreath. Let's see what that looks like. Not everyone's going to receive this wreath. So you got a little bit. Let me see if I can get even closer. And you know, those crowns are going to be beautiful, man. Nothing like it. And that's what we're going to receive. Or I should say what the elect are going to receive. In the Lashuan Kodash, it says, Ta, no, that ain't, Ta, Ra, I'll just read it like here, Ta, Ra, Kayim, or Kayam, Kayim, which is a crown of life, which that crown of life represents immortality, man. To be immortal, which it speaks about that. Not in the same chapter. Probably spelled it wrong. In various, chapters, but I was looking for the one in the Apocrypha. I'll read 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 53. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, which is, the new bodies. And this mortal must put on immortality. Verse 54. So when this corruptible shall put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. And Yahweh Shah made that possible by sacrificing his life for his brethren, man. Standing in front of the bullet. Going back to co-pilot, the word for life in the Greek, zoe, life, vitality, kayim, life. Now, forgive me, I'm going to try to read it anyway. So the command is La, Tara, Hawa, Amawan, I believe, Ad, Mawath, Wa, Anyan, Nathan, Lakha, Tara, Kayim. Don't fear, be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life, which is that immortality, man. And, Esau, he's trying to achieve that through merging man with machines. Guillotine, beheading and martyrdom precepts. The word guillotine is martyrdom, but the spirit of beheading is clearly in prophecy. So let's go to Revelation chapter 20. This is basically talking about the rise of Esau and his captivity under the Israelites during the time of Europe, and his rise out of Europe in his last extension of rule, which we're in his last extension of rule, which this is nothing but the pagan Greco-Roman Empire all over again in the form of America in this system. But going down to verse 4, it says, "And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of Yahweh." Because Yahushua is the word, and which had not worshipped the beast, which is Esau's system, this old Roman system being revived, which is some call it the New World Order. It says, "Neither his image, neither had received his mark," which is the microchip. I'm just going to say it. "Upon their foreheads," and in this form, it will be the brain interface, which is not just Elon Musk working on it. It's a lot of companies from different nations working on it for their own populations or in their hands, right? So everyone's going to have to get a microchip implant in order to buy or sell, pursuing the Revelation, the 13th chapter. "And they lived and reigned with Hamashiach 1,000 years." Right. And that's going to take place in the kingdom. So going back to co-pilot, beheaded in the Greek, pelekizo, to axe, behead. And I could understand some people saying they rather speak, they rather, what do they say? They rather eat pork than speak Greek. And, it's no different than this English language, man, which is just nothing but confusion. And that's Esau. He wants to bring that confusion. It says to axe, behead. It says this is the prophetic category your guillotine sits in. State sanctioned execution for refusal to bow to the beast system. Precept link, Revelation chapter 2, verse 10, and Revelation chapter 20, verse 4. Same group, different angle. Those who endure tribulation unto death are the same one seen enthroned with Yahushua, being what? Joint heirs. Which even within that, there's going to be a hierarchy or order. It says persecution of the church elect in the last days. The world's hatred. So let's go to St. John. Chapter 15. Verses 18, which is disciples' relation to the world. Which, you can go into that word disciples, it means student. Right? Because it's not Yahushua the teacher. This is St. John chapter, and how you say John in the Hebrew is Yakanan. This is St. John chapter 15, verse 18. "If the world hate you, you know that it hated me before it hated you." So if the world hates you, you know that, it really hates Yahushua, man. And that's how it's set up. That's how Yahweh set it up. Because you think, or you would think, why would the world hate the one who created it? But That's how Yahweh Bashim Yahushua set it up to receive glory. Verse 19, if you were of the world will love his own. But because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. Right? I want to see if it has that definition. No. Let's look it up in Blue Letter. The word hated. Mizio.
Strong's G 3404. Miseo.
Which is to hate, pursue with hatred, detest. And why is that? Because the Most High put those left-hand spirits on those people. You know, these people are infested with demonic left-handed spirits, which demon is just intelligence. It doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, right? Let me get in at my the word for hate. Old English, Haitian, regard with extreme ill will, have a passionate aversion to, treat as a enemy, you know. And when you are in your lot, you experience that hate, but also you experience Yahweh Shah setting up certain spirits to show kindness to you, you know. And that has to happen in order for the word to be fulfilled. There's going to be certain that are going to receive a prophet's reward because they showed that kindness to you. Verse 20 says, remember the word that I said unto you. The servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have kept my saying, they will keep yours also. And you know, that world is dealing with the world of Israel, man. The Most High, he don't care about these heathen nations and what they think. You know, so these Israelites of the 2/3, they haven't kept the words of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem HaKakodash. Right? Let me see how far I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna do it right there. Going back to the co-pilot, it says with the precept, persecution is not an accident. It's a continuation of the hatred toward Hamashiach. Right? So that's something that you have to consider when, you know, if you come across ill spirits. And you also have those same spirits that crept in unawares that really are, you know, they don't really have faith, and, you know, they show left-handed tendencies and patterns. This is 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12. It says, yeah, and all that will live godly in Hamashiach, Yahweh Shah, shall suffer persecution. You know, so if you're striving to do the right thing is not always good enough for the left-hand side unless, once again, it falls into their favor. Going back to co-pilot, says, not might, but shall. This sets the expectation for the true believers in these coming days, right? So there's an expectation, something that you should expect, that you're going to suffer persecution. And this all comes along with this truth, man. And it's going to come down real hard because Esau is being made a pariah all throughout the world. And then there's a spirit of, what's the word for it? There's a spirit of uprising against him. As it talks about every hand of the laborer or the wicked shall be against him. So soon they're going to deliver up, certain men up to councils. And those are the men that, have the faith required for it, because that's in their lot. Let's go to St. Matthew. Chapter 10, which is the section reads, a hard road before them. And I'll start at verse 16. It says, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep." Now, in order for you to understand that, I'm going to quickly ask a question. So, core sheep mannerisms, the big three. One, flocking instinct, the strongest behavioral trait. Sheep move as a group, follow the nearest sheep, not the smartest choice. Panic when isolated, rely on the herd for safety. This is why one sheep moving can cause the whole group to shift. Two, grazing plus wandering pattern. Sheep graze in, let me see. Social mannerisms. Sheep have a surprisingly structured social behavior. Follow the leader, usually the most confident you. Strong mother lamb bonding. Low aggression compared to goats. Now, that's one thing that is often compared to Jacob and Esau. One has the mannerisms of sheep and one is likened on to goats. It says use bleats to communicate distance, stress, or recognition. They're gentle but highly reactive animals, being gentle, right? It says in the midst of wolves. In the midst of wolves, a wolf is a predatory animal that hunts in packs, and it's one of the best hunters. And they have a taste for the meat of sheep and they want to destroy you. It says, "Be ye therefore wise as serpents." And a serpent is a very highly intelligent animal, man, that the Most High created. I believe you could liken a serpent onto a dragon, which is the highest form of intelligence, according to the information Apostle Gabar brought out dealing with the 5 levels of intelligence in Yale University, man. And that's a high form of intelligence that you want to pray that the Most High allows you to receive. It says, "and harmless as doves," and doves are harmless, man. They don't pose a threat, and we don't oppose a threat. Our threatening comes through us praying onto Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah, man. And he answers. Verse 17, "But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues." And these are things that are gonna happen soon, man. I'm pretty sure, the small hats are gonna be involved. It says, "And ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles," which the Gentiles I'm sure is speaking about the heathen nations. It says, but when they deliver you up, take no thought on how, or Slakia, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour what ye shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you, right? Which technically Yahushua is our Father, because he's the one that created us through the orders of his Father Yahweh. It says, and the brother shall deliver up the brother to death. You know, they're going to say, oh, if you have a family member, if you know anyone that is involved in Hebrew Israelite or, you know, any of its forms, call this hotline, right? It says, and the father of the child, you know, your dad might know, and he turns you in. You know, it says, and the children shall rise up against their parents. You might have children that are of age or young enough to speak, and they'll rise up against you. And that's the spirit that the Most High is going to put on these individuals. And that's part of your testing, and cause them to be put to death, which goes back to the guillotine. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. And they're going to run campaigns, man, against the Hebrew Israelites to build that hatred that the Most High is going to put on them. And that's how you're going to know it's the Heavenly Father doing it, man. It says, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved. And in your mind, you shouldn't give a fuck. You know, you should trust in Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Ba'ashim Harakwadash no matter what. It says, but when they persecute you in this city, flee ye into another. For surely or verily I say unto you, ye shall not have gone over the cities of Yashar'Allah till the Son of Man be come. Because it talks about pilgrimage. You know, one place to another. Right? St. Matthew chapter 24, verse 9 through 13. This is verse 9. It says, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And a lot of you, you're not ready to die, man. You still have that fear because you lack faith. You have to pray. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you shouldn't beat yourself over it. Just, you know, find the opportunity to pray and strengthen that relationship that you should have with Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, man. And that comes through trials and tribulations and catching hell and going through adversity. Do you achieve such faith? It says, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended and shall betray one another. You know, there's going to be a lot of betrayal, man. And shall hate one another. A lot of individuals are going to hate other individuals for whatever reason it may be. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many, which you have that going on now. You know, when you speak falsehood, you speak false prophecy, you're a false prophet, man, and you're deceiving people, man. Case in point, I saw Gorilla Peg Boo on Instagram trying to speak about worldly shit concerning the whole Gucci Mane Pooh Shiesty situation. You know, And I was like, this is what a false prophet looks like. One who's going to be destroyed. It says, and because iniquity, which is sins upon sins, shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold, which means to grow cold, man. And that's why you see so much killing on the news. That's why you see so much death and destruction out there, man. But in most of our lots, it's very simple. It's simplistic, and it's solitary, unless it's going to camp, of course, right? It says, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So if you endure all those things, you're going to be saved. And there's nothing nobody could say, and there's nothing nobody could do about it, man. And this gospel, which is the good news of the kingdom, shall be preached or prophesied in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. And we're at the end now, man. That's why things are speeding up. You're seeing the quick fall of Esau, which him trying to maintain order or his rule is going to cause him to err and be destroyed. Going back to co-pilot, deliver up in the Greek, paradidomi, hand over, betray. A lot of people are going to be betrayed, man. It says this includes legal systems, religious councils, and family betrayal. Tie-in, Revelation chapter 2, verse 10, cast some of you into prison is the same deliver you up mechanism Yahweh Shah warned about, right? Apocryphal precepts on martyrdom and steadfastness, choosing death rather than breaking the covenant, right? And you see how people would rather break the covenant than choose death when they go back into the world, man. Second Maccabees, right? Chapter 7. I'm gonna skip around because it's a long chapter and there are sound issues on the dungeon filling video, so I'm gonna redo that video after this one. Which maybe that was the spirit anyway, for me to do this video first and then do the dungeon filling, but upload the dungeon filling first and then this video and then the preceding videos I had compiled over the last few days of fasting and praying about what's to take place real soon. But this is Second Maccabees, and I want to switch to the standard KJV. This is Second Maccabees chapter 7, verse 1. It came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh. And that's the instrument that Esau used in that time period to get us to turn against Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. They use pork just as they do in these times, but now pork, you jakes, you freely eat it, man. Not knowing that your forefathers would have rather died than eat pork, which makes you an embarrassment. And I get it, everybody ate it, because everybody, that was what they were introduced to because of the ones that were their caretakers. And I was never really a big pork eater. I was turned off from Christianity because of, of course, the imagery So, I had my own little constitution, I guess you could say, on how, I should walk. And most of it was according to biblical principles, but not really according to the Bible. Until, I went to Islamic route, which I really wasn't even into that. And that was due to the examples of the other believers. They really were not really serious themselves and, doing all the things that you weren't supposed to do. But one thing that we agreed on that I started to follow was not to eat pork, not to eat swine. It says, and another thing too, just because they say it's halal does not mean that it's that it's automatically good for you, man. Automatically able for you to eat, because they'll say and lie and say, "Oh, this is a beef pepperoni or something of that nature." But who's to say that it is? Because these people, they care about the dollar. They care about a buck. The merchants of the earth. And just because they pray, what God are they praying to? They're praying to a devil, a demon, to make those things so-called halal. Particularly the moon god. It says, and were tormented with scourges and whips. But one of them that spake first said thus, what wouldest thou ask or learn of us? We are ready to die rather than to transgress the laws of our fathers. Right. And that's the same attitude that you individuals that may have got kicked out of camps, or, something may have happened and you went back into the world. You should have had the attitude that you are ready to die, then transgress the laws which were given by Yahweh, by Shem Shah to our fathers, man. Right? And I'm going to skip around. This is verse 9. It says, and when he was at the last gasp, he said, thou like a fury takest us out of this present life. And that's what they tend to do in these times too. With anger and fury, kill us. It says, but the King of the world shall raise us up, who have died for his laws unto everlasting life. All right, so are you willing to die for what you came to believe in? We're going to see, man. And one way that you could assure your faith in that is to have nothing else to die for or to live for other than Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. Verse 13, now when this man was dead also, they tormented and mangled the fourth in like manner. So when he was ready to die, he said thus, it is good, being put to death by men, to look for hope from the Most High, or Yahweh, to be raised up again by him. As for thee, thou shalt have no resurrection to life. And that's exactly what's going to be with these heathen nations, starting with Esau, man. No resurrection to life. It says they choose torture and death rather than eating swine's flesh and breaking the law. It says this is Revelation chapter 2 and 10 in action. Faithful unto death, expectation of resurrection and reward. So you have to have expectation of resurrection and reward, man. Right? It says noble death versus fearful compromise. So let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "But the souls of the righteous are in the hand of the Most High, and there shall no torment touch them. In the sight of the unwise they seem to die, and their departure is taken for misery." Yeah, they're going to be talking shit. "And they're going from us to be utter destruction, but they are in peace. For though they be punished in the sight of men, yet is their hope full of immortality," to live on or in this earth forever, man. Which within our abode, which is these bodies, is a spirit that is indestructible, man. And this spirit has been on earth many a times. There's no such thing as you only live once. It says, "And having been a little chastised, they shall be greatly rewarded. For the Most High proved them and found them worthy for himself." So Yahweh Shah has proven you to find him, or to find you worthy for himself. He wants you. Just as you have those commercials, even brochures dealing with the United States Army. Let me see if I can find what I'm talking about. You don't want to join Esau's army, man. You don't want to fight for these damn devils. And you're seeing the backlash in real time. Nobody wants to fight for these damn devils, man. Going back to co-pilot, it says little chastised equals short tribulation, like 10 days in Revelation chapter 2, verse 10, symbolic limited period. Greatly rewarded equals crown of life, glory. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 1. It says, "Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him." And that's the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah Ba'ashem Hakwadash, allowing us to go on the highways and hedges and do something that was once unprecedented, especially prior to the 60s. To stand before this Edomite and accuse him to his face. It says it made no account of his labors, right? And as a whole, our people were put into hardcore slavery, and this devil refuses to give us our reparations. And our people shouldn't ask for reparations from this damn devil, man. You don't want reparations in that sense because he still remains in power, man. You want him to be your reparation. And he's going to be our reparations. He's gonna be our slave. We're not gonna step on the ground. We're gonna step on these Edomites as they form the ground. It says, "When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed." And what did they start to see? They start to see Jake rise upon their feet, man. That spiritual army in Ezekiel the 37th chapter. Going out there on the street corners and preaching the word and condemning America in its actions. It says they shall be troubled with terrible fear. And that's a fearful sight. to these Edomites, man, in these heathen nations. That's why they are so intrigued about what these so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous are hollering about. It says, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, because they're not expecting so-called UFOs or UAPs, which stands for either unidentifiable flying objects or unidentifiable aerial phenomenon, which we know as to be the chariots of Yasha Allah to come and deliver us. It says so far beyond all that they looked for, you know. So they're going to be in amazement, bewilderment, just as, you know, um, the look on those, what do you call it, cattlemen or plantation overseers in the movie Django, when they saw him come to Calvin Candy's plantation and they had their jaw all the way down to the floor. That scene before they sick the dogs on Octavius or Doctavius, the look that so-called white boy had, man, that's something that they, never expected to see. It says, and they repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit shall say within themselves, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision and a proverb of reproach. And derision meaning ridicule, and reproach meaning shame. We fools accounted his life madness and his end to be without honor. How is he numbered among the children of the Most High? And his lot is among the saints. And his lot is among the saints. And the only way you could be a saint, you have to be an Israelite, man. It says the same ones who persecuted and killed the righteous will witness their vindication. Right. It says 10 days in the testing protocol. Revelation chapter 2, verse 10, ye shall have tribulation 10 days, often understood as a complete but limited period of testing, not necessarily literal 10 24-hour days. Precept echo. Daniel chapter 1, 12, verse 15. This is Daniel chapter 1, verse 11, or Danya Allah. Then said Danya Allah and Mezar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Danya Allah, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse, which are fruits and vegetables to eat, and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat. And as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this matter. So, you have to have the understanding of having a proper diet, man. And even in my little experience, I was on a carnivore diet since September 28th until maybe March 25th. It was kind of a little bit modified because things are getting expensive. But all in all, I was on a carnivore diet and I lost maybe about 35, 40 pounds, man. And gained about over 60% muscle mass. And even in the gym, I gained an immense amount of strength. I didn't reach my goals on the bench, but I'm pretty sure if I was confident in the weight, I could, at least do a Pete Hegseth, push of 315 pounds. I was squatting up to 4 plates, but I will put up to 6 plates on the squats to do negatives. You know, 6 plates on each side. So um, I'm very pleased of what the results were. But now I'm ready to go back to eating fruits and vegetables, man. Which that was the diet that I mainly had. Was more so of a vegan or vegetarian diet off and on. Which I love making stews with greens and mustard greens, collard greens, spinach, habaneros, red chilies, garlic, green onions, you know. At the time, I was eating sausages in it, putting beef sausage in it, beef stew meat. That has been my main diet over the years is just stews. And also drinking the herbal teas that I make. I had a business that I was gonna start called Hand of the Physician, and I was making tinctures, and I was actually treating people, man. Now, whether they were healed or not, that's on them because they think it's just a quick fix. When it comes to real medicine, it's a treatment. So I understand the importance of eating, your fruits and your vegetables. It says, verse 14, so he consented to them in this matter and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their countenance appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat, you know, which it says precept echo, and it's trying to relate that with the 10 days that Daniel or Daniel Allah experienced. It says, so 10 days equals intense but bounded trial. Yahweh Shah sets the limit. The devil is the instrument. Yahweh is the one who sets the duration, you know? So it goes to refusing the beast system even on to death. So let's go to Revelation chapter 13. Verse 15 says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. And that life is going to be made possible through his technology, his AI, and that image. If you really go into the construction of AI, it resembles, Greco-Roman principles and ideologies, and the beast is basically the new world order. It says that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, right? Because you have to be plugged in. You have to be plugged into the internet of everything. It says, which I was going to school. Well, I am going to school, and mainly to get the money from financial aid and stay out of trouble. Well, I know you spell it a different way. I think it's IOE, meaning, which is internet of everything. Various companies. See if it gets into even clearer definition. Should have went into. Well, I don't have those notes on this computer. where you're tied into, the Internet of Things. Meaning of Internet of Everything, examples and uses. The Internet of Everything is more than just a tech buzzword. It's a sweeping transformation of how people, processes, data, and things connect to bring greater value to our lives and industries. While IoT, Internet of Things, refers specifically to interconnected devices, IoE expands this concept to include the human and business aspects that drive meaningful outcomes, right? So that's what they want to connect you people to. And if you don't desire that connection, it's going to lead to you possibly being killed. Try to get this low charger on. Verse 16, it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor. And I don't suggest you put a charger on your computer that's a slow charger because it'll mess up your battery. But for the sake of me completing this video, I'm going to do it. And then y'all shout about the Zah. I'll do the dungeon filling video over again. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, being bond meaning you're incarcerated, to receive a mark, which is that microchip implant, in their right hand, which goes into your hand, or a brain interface, or in their foreheads that will go and be drilled into your brain. It says the word mark. Let's bring that out real quick.
Strong's G 5480. Kharagma. Kharagma.
Which really means etching. And to prove that is go to the root word.
Strong's G 5482. Kharax.
Karax, a pale or stake. Just in case you don't know what that is. This is a stake. And it looks like what? It looks like a needle. And when you use a needle, you can only use it once. Because at the tip it breaks or bends. So once you get that cut into your flesh through the kurax or the stake, which is the needle,
Strong.
that's when they administer the microchip.
Strong's G 1125. Grapho. Grapho.
Where you're going to have all your information written on it. It says for outline of biblical usage to fill with writing. Let's see. Hold on. Let me refresh it. Short answer, a typical human microchip implant, the RFID NFC kind, placed in the hand, usually contains very little data on the chip itself, mainly a unique ID number, which that ID number is tied to RFID reader that accesses information, your information, on a cloud server. That's why they got all these data centers. It says that ID links to information stored outside the body in a database. But depending on the chip type, some can store small amounts of actual data. Below is the full breakdown. So basic RFID NFC microchips most common. These are the rice grain size implants used for identification, access control, payments, device unlocking. What's actually on the chip? A unique ID number, the chip serial number, sometimes a small block of writable memory like a digital business card or URL. Says what's not on the chip: name, address, bank, account numbers, GPS location, medical records. Those things can be stored in an external database that the ID number points to. Advanced NFC secure element implants. Newer implants like Vivo Key can store more complex data, encrypted credentials, which is basically something that has to be accessed with a code. Authentication keys, digital wallets, PGP keys, one-time password generators. These chips can run small secure applications, Java card applets, medical-oriented data implants. But let's go. Microchips used for convenience, workplaces, Sweden, etc. These can store personal identification, access permissions, payment tokens. So you need the microchip to pay something. Going back to buying and selling. Login credentials, medical records in some cases. Examples include employees using chips to log into computers or buy snacks. Let's sit on that. So that's where you get the word grapho. Verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that hath the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And that's where, or why you're seeing the collapse of the dollar, which is all on purpose, man, because they're going into a digital system. Going back to Copilot, it says this is the legal technological framework that can easily include guillotine style executions, fast, public, and symbolic. Let's go to Revelation 14, verse 9. It says, doom for worshipers of the beast. Verse 9, it says, the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. So this describes the consequences that is going to happen toward those individuals that turn against the Heavenly Father and His Son. It says, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, his righteous anger, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone, which those individuals are going to burn in that nuclear fire, in the presence of the holy angels, the separated messengers, and in the presence of the Lamb, who the world inly calls Jesus Christ, which we know him as Yahweh Shai, man. It says, in the smoke of their torment, and that nuclear fire is going to be bellowing smoke, ascending up forever and ever, meaning that it's going to be burning for a long time. And they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast in his image, which that goes into, the complications and being tied into that AI system. It says, who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience, the suffering of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of the Most High and the faith of Yahweh Shai. So going back to Copilot, says the choice is clear: avoid death now, face eternal judgment. Accept death now for Yahweh Shai, receive crown of life. And there's many that are going to be pushed into, this desperation due to the economic conditions that are going to be in results of what Esau has done in the Middle East recently and is continuing to do. It's going to collapse the United States dollar. Gas is going to go to extremes. Food is going to go to extremes, which is going to drive people to their knees until they introduce a new system. Lashawan Kodash etymology overlay in the promise. Let's compress Revelation chapter 2, verse 10's promise and Lashawan Kodash style brought out. Okay, I'm going to skip this. It says how this lands on these coming days, putting it together GMS style. Persecution is guaranteed for the true believers. The system will criminalize obedience. Beheading, guillotine is just a tool. The real issue is testimony and refusal. The guillotine is a modern expression of an ancient spirit, state power enforcing idolatry. Yahweh Shai sets the limits of the trial. Job 1 through 2, Satan can only go as far as Yahweh allows. Right? Martyrdom is not defeat, it's promotion. The mindset required. Let's go to Luke. This is Luke chapter 14, verse 25. Discipleship tested. It says, and there went great multitudes with him, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother, and this is not literal, it just means you need to choose Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai over these things. And mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yeah, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Right? So you got to bear your burdens. Revelation 12 and 11, they love not their lives unto the death. Right? So this is the conclusion of this video. I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified. Since the Shabbat is coming in, I want to say Shabbat Shalom.